Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Planet Zoo and more specifically River Rock Zoo. So for those longtime fans of the channel, you guys will know that River Rock Zoo was my very first zoo project, at least the very first project that I really took seriously as a project and decided to make like a full-on zoo rather than just little habitats here and there. So as it stands on the channel right now, the original entrance video for River Rock Zoo is the very first video on the channel. It's not the very first video that I uploaded, but there are some pretty terrible ones that have now been set to private because the habitats are not very good and I don't like them at all, and they don't have voiceovers. It was all very early YouTube for me. But River Rock Zoo entrance is the very first video that really caught some traction and really started my journey into covering Planet Zoo as a content creator, as a YouTuber. So recently, Estan Wolf, a fantastic creator and friend, has been going back into his project, Suyana, and deleting things, remodeling things, rebuilding things, and it sparked my interest and made me decide that, you know what? River Rock Zoo deserves a little bit of that as well because it is my first project. As I mentioned, my build skills have, one, gotten so much better from when I first started, but two, we now have so many more pieces in the game. When River Rock Zoo was first built, the original video of this, I really only had base game, the Arctic pack, and honestly, I honestly think that's it. I really do. I think that's it. It was just the Arctic pack and base game. And then, you know, as the next packs came out, you know, South America, I started to add, and we ended River Rock Zoo after the aquatic pack. So really, there has been a whole lot more pieces, more stuff, more animals that have come out since I started this, and it was really cool for me to go back in and start demolishing things. For one, that was the most fun I had in this project. Starting over is deleting everything, but two, to get to use some of those new pieces. So let's talk about what I'm doing. So the entrance to River Rock Zoo was always very simplistic. I used the information booths when I first built it, and that meant that the entrance was a little bit oversized. So what you saw was me trying really to still implement vendors, still implement the information kind of kiosks, and I just didn't like it. So I threw that all away, and we're gonna make a totally non-functional but looks pretty, kind of my MO for the channel, right? Little entrance ticket booth area, and I'm really happy with how this came out. I'm using the Woodland Park Zoo entrance. You may have seen those entrance pictures all over the place because when you search for zoo entrances, they're one of the first ones that came up, and it was the original reference picture that I used when I first built River Rock Zoo, so I only felt it fair, I guess, and necessary to use the same reference pictures because I'm really not trying to invent the wheel here. I'm really trying to stay true to what the style of River Rock Zoo was, which is kind of, you know, modern and wood tones and blacks and things like that. So I really don't want to build an entirely new project. I really just want to improve upon and revamp what was already there, and save a little pieces on on my way because oh my lord, did baby Savannah not realize how much piece count makes a difference in a build. So even when I was doing this remodel, I would delete some things and have to wait for like 30 seconds, a minute for them to delete because the canopy of the entrance of River Rock Zoo, not all of those are big pieces. For whatever reason, like I said, baby Savannah years ago decided it would be a good idea to make that canopy thing using some of the 1 meter pieces instead of like the 4 meter pieces. And God, I was so uninformed and so dumb. So getting rid of all of those and being able to use things like the conservation pack pieces that are wooden slats, but they're all in one piece and they have like 5 or 6 slats in them, is really helping really helping with the piece count and kind of allowed me to do the flooring that I wanted to do, because I was really trying to save pieces, but then I went and did an intricate tile flooring. You'll see, I'll get into all of that. But going throughout the zoo and improving, I'm really going to be able to reduce piece count. I mean, if you guys remember the capuchin monkey and the tapir habitat, we didn't have mesh or anything yet, any of the chain link pieces or any of that, and I decided to create my own. Just the mesh covering of the habitat alone, which is probably like 1/4 of the build, is almost 4,000 pieces. So we're going to be able to rectify some of that and improve upon that as we kind of go through. And I'm very excited because that's going to make River Rock Zoo much more functional, much more fun to build in. It's one of the reasons why I decided to end the project in the first place, was because it was starting to get freezy and frame rate issues were a thing, and I didn't want to build for the polar bears anymore, but that's beside the point. We will go back to the polar bears. I have plans for that exhibit already, but it won't be for a while. We're starting at the front. We're going to work our way back. But yeah, so I'm very excited to be back in this project. So this little entrance area I'm working on is kind of it is the ticket area. And I made these little doors that are meant to, you know, when the zoo is closed, the staff can pull the little panels across, and then they open them up when they are open and selling tickets. We've got some information signs up top. One thing that I do need to do, and I didn't do it before putting this video out, mostly because I didn't want to delay the video anymore, is the fact that I'm using Mayberry Park's ticket signs and advertisement signs as the billboards for this one, just because I already had them. They're already in game, and they work well enough, to be honest, is why I used them. So sometime in the future, I will probably, maybe, if I remember, redo the ticket signs and things and replace them for some marketing that says River Rock Zoo and such. But for now, they are just Mayberry Parks, and if you don't get too close to them, you don't even notice. So, you know, I might, in all honesty, just forget and not replace them. That'll be it for the eternity of River Rock Zoo. But this entrance area actually took me quite a while. One, because I was deleting a whole bunch of stuff, but two, as you can see here, I was trying to get really detailed with it. One of the things that I noticed going back to a build that I hadn't done in years was just how little detail I truly put into this entrance. Now, you guys, I'm sure are thinking, like, we love that entrance. It's the video that has, I think, over 100K views on my channel. It's a very popular video and you guys loved it, and I love it too. But like I said, as somebody who has been building for the past couple years and improved upon in Planet Zoo and gotten so many more pieces, there is so much room for improvement. So I don't mean any of this to say that the old entrance was terrible. I don't want you guys to think, you know, well, I build kind of like that, so my stuff is terrible, because I've certainly heard that as well. You know, the original was even better than I can do. It's not terrible. It's not a bad build. I still like it. It's very beautiful. It's just not the best I can do anymore. And that's what happens when you improve at something. Something that you did a while ago is no longer representative of your best work. And so that's what this is here. I'm really taking into account layout designs and a little bit more realism than I did at the beginning when I first started building in Planet Zoo. I really kind of just focused on pretty looking things. And now, as I have done more research into zoos, I've worked at a couple different animal facilities since I first started, I kind of have a better idea of how things work, how, you know, guests should be moving into a park, things like that. Oh God, those awful railings. If you guys are watching me delete the individual metal poles that I used as fencing. Another dumb mistake that baby Savannah didn't realize when you're first starting a zoo: maybe don't throw all of the possible pieces that you can throw into something into a build, because you're only just starting. Anyway, hindsight's 2020. But anyway, I'm really thinking about the layout. So as it stood right there, River Rock Zoo really didn't have an exit. You know, it was the 2 ticket booths in the middle and then 2 entrances on either side, because in my mind I was thinking this is where guests enter. how the heck do guests get out of the park? So as it stood, River Rock Zoo was just a guest collector, I guess, or an inescapable prison because there was no exit. You just went in and never came out. So I'm thinking about things like that and really putting that into my design on how guests would enter and also exit. This is by no means finished. So I did stop building after about, honestly, truly, I have probably 2.5 hours worth of footage that you're gonna see. I cut about an hour out. When I was dealing with the flooring for the entrance plaza area, I really went back and forth on a lot of different designs. I used some blueprints. I made my own crazy custom flooring that had 1,000,000 pieces, and then, reminded myself of the conserving pieces that I was trying to do. And so I ended up just cutting all of that out, and you'll really just see the final product. But again, just kind of thinking about how I could make this the most efficient kind of zoo layout I could. One of those things, one part of that, I guess, is lowering the ceiling. So as I mentioned, I used those information booths, and one thing that the Planet games are notorious for, Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo together, is their scaling. So any guest facilities, any staff facilities are really, really tall and not really representative of how tall buildings would be in real life. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to not use any information booths at all. I could probably take one of those little, what are they called? Little benches, information benches, tables that don't have the encasing of the entire building, and throw it behind the little ticket area. But I really just didn't want guests like clipping through it. I mean, I didn't even open the park and let guests in because guests suck. But if I wanted to, I didn't want them kind of clipping through everything that I just built, and I didn't want to spend time putting down curbs and barriers to make it so that they wouldn't clip into those things. But point being is, eventually, once this is up on the workshop, when it's all complete and whatnot, if you wanted it to be a functioning zoo, you could just throw one of those little benches behind there. The ceiling is too low to throw in one of the buildings. But anyway, this entrance area, even though it's like 2.5 hours worth of footage that you're gonna see condensed down into 30 minutes, it's not done. So the way that I want to approach River Rock Zoo going forward is a little bit different how I approached it in the past. How I have always approached videos up until about now is that one video was a start and finish to a certain thing. It was a start and finish to a habitat, start and finish to an entrance, start and finish to a restaurant. Whatever I was building, it was started and finished in that video. And that is really exhausting at some points, because it puts a lot of pressure on me to actually finish to completion a build before I push it out and show you guys. And sometimes builds take longer than others. Sometimes I run out of inspiration in the middle and I want to work on something else. And so I really want to allow River Rock Zoo's remodel to cater to how my creativity comes out, basically. When I feel like building something, I'm going to build something. When I don't, I'm going to take a step back, take a break, work on something else. So what that means is, in this video, you're seeing mostly entrance, but it's not completely finished. We don't have any really ticket checker people. The backside of the entire ticket booth building is not finished. I don't even touch the restaurant that's attached on the left-hand side, because I was already at the point where I had built enough to have enough footage for a video that there was no point in me making an hour-long speed build video when I could take a break, think about my design, look at some reference pictures, and then release it in a separate video. So all that means going forward is that you might get a video where we work on the Timberwolf habitat and we really only complete half of it. So in the next episode, we might complete the second half, or we might complete a habitat and then start working on something else, or, so it might just be broken up in that way. And I feel like that will really help my creativity, because it'll let me work on what I'm inspired to build at that particular time. Hopefully you guys like that new format and that is okay with you guys, but I'm very excited about it. So what we're doing now is we're working a little bit on some kind of entrance plaza decor and such. It took me a really long time to figure out how I wanted this kind of area to come together. Originally, the planters were very square. I built them to also be kind of some benches that people could sit on, and that's how these are built as well. People could sit on the edge of these and such. But what I really wanted to do is add a little bit more contrast when it comes to shapes and things, and I wanted the planters to be very circular and round with, you know, softer edges, that is circles, in comparison to all the sharp lines and square features of the building. I wanted there to be just a little bit of contrast so that there's just a little bit, I guess, more movement between the things, if that's how you describe it. That's how I'm describing it in my mind, and I know what I'm talking about, but hopefully I'm conveying that message to you guys. So that is the reason I decided to go with kind of a circular pattern. And it really took me a long time for the flooring, as I mentioned before. Originally, I was going to leave it all this kind of rock pathing, because thinking, you know, the name is River Rock Zoo, so the flooring is made of what could be, you know, slabs of river rock, even though river rock is normally like smaller pebbles and things like that. But I wanted there to be some differentiation between kind of the ticket area and then where you walk to go into the zoo. So I was trying to find some good reference pictures of like patterned concrete, I guess, where like entrance areas to theme parks and zoos will kind of use the flooring to point you in the direction that you're going, or give it some sort of pattern to make it interesting. So this was my first attempt. It is far from what we end up with. It was way too kind of clean and smooth looking. It was way too bright and samey, similarly piece to piece was all way too what's the word I'm looking for, like the same, I guess. There's a fancy word and it's on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it, but it just wasn't different enough. It didn't look worn in. I couldn't really get the decals to work right where it looked like it was going to be like a worn flooring. So then I tried this plaster like I've done before. We actually did that in the polar bear habitat. So my thought was like, well, it's already in the park, you know, I can just kind of utilize that flooring over here. The colors didn't look right to me. So I went back and forth, and here you can see I'm taking a break. I said, okay, forget the flooring. I'm going to do some trees because I like trees and they're easy. So we're doing the planters and stuff now just to add some greenery to it, because as I've mentioned in the past, I pretty much hate everything I build until I add greenery and things, and then it makes it very pretty. I like the contrast of the greenery and all the man-made stuff and the sky and all that kind of stuff. It just makes it look a little bit more lifelike to add all this greenery. And I really kind of struggled between what greenery to use, between like what I think looks good and what I think looks good in a thumbnail, unfortunately, because I didn't want to block the entirety of the sign. I didn't want to block the entirety of the entrance because, you know, the reality is that I have to take a picture of this as a thumbnail and make it look pretty. And if the trees and such are getting in the way of the sign, and, you know, that doesn't make a very good thumbnail. So I had to keep that in mind. So I'll move this a few times, kind of moving it here and there all over the place to kind of get the best setup and the best layout for the thumbnail. But eventually I do think this all comes together as a, you know, very interesting looking and somewhat realistic kind of entrance plaza, because I really didn't want it to be a big open space. It's one of the things with the original River Rock Zoo entrance. You know, there was some planters, but I didn't feel like it was really thought about. It was kind of just an afterthought of like, oh gosh, I have to throw some things here because, you know, it looks plain, it looks empty. And so I really felt like this plaza now has some thought behind it and has some reasoning for putting things where they were meant to be. You'll notice that the thumbnail, and, you know, because of the centerpiece in the plaza includes the pronghorn statue, I felt it really important, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, to keep some original elements of the original build in this build. So not to completely get rid of everything, but to keep some of those elements integrated into the plaza. And if you remember from before, those pronghorn statues were on either side of the ticket booth. So I felt it was kind of a good a nod to the original design that I implement the pronghorn as kind of the staple. When you walk up, that's like the first statue that you see. It added some color and, you know, it looks nice, basically. You can ignore absolutely all of this floor work that I'm doing. Poor Drew and Estan, they are, like I said, wonderful creators, wonderful friends. I was sending them pictures probably every hour, like, what do you think of this? That looks stupid. What do you think of this? How do you like this? What if I did this? And they're such good sports. They were answering, you know, I think this looks good. I think this could change. I think the colors are off and whatnot. But basically just kind of bouncing some ideas off some other creators to get a fresh set of eyes, because I really did this build kind of all in one sitting, really. And I normally don't do that. I normally take lots of breaks in between when I'm building so that I can kind of give my mind and my eyes a rest. But I was in a mode for this one. I was just in a mood, needed to build, needed to get it done. And when the inspiration strikes, you know, I try not to fight it and just go with it. But anyway, I wanted to leave it all in because, as I've said before in other videos, I never know what's going to spark inspiration for you guys. This looks, in my opinion, it looks awful for River Rock Zoo, but maybe in your park, that flooring design is something that's going to work really, really well for you. And seeing it here will kind of give you an idea for your own project. So it's important to me that I leave some of this stuff in. Again, I cut out a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to get to a cut here in just a couple seconds. But leaving in as much as I can is important, I think, because, like I said, it just might spark creativity for you guys. We're going to get to the jump here any second now. Let's go to the next part here. Ta-da! The flooring is finished. So this is many iterations afterwards, and I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it because it just, like I said, it differentiates between the ticket area and like the open plaza area. I'm really happy with how those barriers come out, those little, where I have like the queue for, or the line, what are they called? Stanchions? Where people walk, you know, through to get in line to buy tickets and things like that. I'm really happy that we have those pieces in the game because they look very realistic as something that's not a permanent fixture. If they need to make the line longer or shorter, they can move them here or there. So I felt like that really kind of fit in with a zoo entrance. And then here I'm using these, are they called turnstiles? It's basically the exit. I'm pretty sure this is a blueprint made by Masked Bandit, another creator on YouTube. And I'm pretty sure this is his original blueprint that I downloaded forever ago. I've just had it in my blueprint menu and pulled it out for this, and I'm just kind of fitting it into the entrance here so that you enter on the right hand side and then the exit is on the same side. And that's really, I'm sorry, on the left side, on the opposite side. But basically you enter and exit to the same plaza, basically is what I was trying to say. So I throw those in, and this is basically, if I remember right, this is pretty much the last thing we work on. I'm going to use inspiration from another creator's blueprint for fences here. I was trying to create my own, and I had kind of a vision in my mind, but I couldn't quite put it together with exactly how I wanted it to look. So you can see here I'm pulling out some blueprints, and I'm going to try a couple different ones, and eventually I go with one of these, and I just kind of alter it a little bit. I don't go with this one. This is just my first choice. I just alter it to make it look good because we want to make sure that people aren't, you know, skipping in, sneaking in, things like that. You know, we want to keep exit, entrance separate from one another. And I'm really happy with how this came out. So I'm really excited to start this project again and keep going with it. It gives me something new to work on. We obviously still have Sakura Zoo going on, and we still have our stream zoo coming on. Speaking of that, I do try to stream every Thursday at about 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That may potentially be changing because I may potentially be switching jobs again, but I will keep you guys posted on that as I know more. But basically that's a stream zoo where we only work on it while we're live, and that way chat can help decide what we do or don't build. And then other than Sakura Zoo, Mayberry Park Zoo is our only other project. I'm looking to start another franchise project very soon. I just haven't had the time. Jurassic World Evolution 2 just released a new DLC, so I spent some time the last few days covering that. But yeah, that's kind of the plans for the channel. I really have not had much time in the past few months, which is really unfortunate because I have wanted to, but I just haven't had the time to step away and do some really long-term building or put the effort into videos. But again, I'm hoping that that changes very soon and that content will become a much more regular thing on the channel. And by that I just mean, you know, more speed builds and more videos like you guys are used to, and not just quick little kind of off the cuff videos like I feel like they have been. But basically we are almost done. There's only 4-ish minutes left of the video, so I'm gonna have to find something to talk to you guys about until we finish this one. This is a bit longer of a speed build than I have typically been putting out. Normally speed builds are only about 20 minutes or so. This one is almost 30, so if you guys have made it this far, I really do appreciate you hanging out with me. And since I've been uploading a little bit less frequently, leaving a like on the video and commenting is really gonna go a whole heck of a long way, and I really do appreciate it because when you stop posting, YouTube kind of deems you irrelevant and doesn't push your videos out to as many people. So if you have landed on this, and especially if you've made it 25 minutes into the video now, I know you're enjoying it, or you just, I don't know, you think I'm so ridiculous that it's entertaining to listen to, I guess. But either way, you've made it this far, and leaving a like and a comment will very much help me out. It's my long-winded way of saying thank you and interact with the video, basically. As we finish up this fencing, and I don't really have anything else to tell you guys, my next project in River Rock Zoo will probably be to start kind of the inside plaza area. I really thought it was going to be the restaurant, but after building a very building heavy episode where this was a lot of structural stuff, I'm really wanting to dive in and kind of rework the way the wolf habitat works to kind of open up the entrance area a little bit more. Because right now, as soon as you go through the entrance, you're met straight away with the wolf habitat. And I still think the wolves will be the first animal that people see, but I just want to open it up a little bit more, give a little bit more walking room so that guests kind of have enough room to disperse. You know, when you first get into a zoo, families might have to go off to the side, sit on a bench, get their kids together, whatever they have to do. So I just kind of want to make it feel a little bit more open and less kind of, bam, here you are, you're in the zoo, here's the animals. We also need to add a little bit more shopping and whatnot, because that would be very typical of the entrance area. But here we are. And cinematics here, some glamour shots, if you will. I really do hope you guys enjoyed. As I mentioned before, leave a like and a video down below. It really does help me out. I greatly do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and Discord and all those kind of fun things. All those links are down below in the description. I can't thank you guys enough for hanging out with me, and I hope you're just as excited at the revival of River Rock Zoo as I am. And enjoy these end cinematics. I will talk at you guys in the next video. Bye!